What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking Spiderhead, the brand new movie on Netflix. Is it worth watching? And is this movie about a headless Spider-Man? Or the head of Spider-Man? So in the near future, convicts are offered the chance to volunteer as medical subjects to shorten their sentences. One subject, for a new drug capable of generating feelings of love, begins questioning the reality of his emotions. That character is played by Miles Teller. You also have Jurnee Smollett and Chris Hemsworth in this film. A really good cast underneath a really good director in Joseph Kosinski, someone who I believe is was vastly underrated in Hollywood. Of course, Top Gun Maverick is dominating right now, but this is his second film this year, and Spiderhead had all of the makings of a Black Mirror type of story if it executed at the end of the day. Before we get into that, I want to talk about the rating, and this is rated R. There's language, violent content, and sexual content for sure. A lot of that coming from the drugs that our subjects are testing and trying out, but we're trying to figure out as we're progressing through the first act, what are the intentions of Hemsworth's character? One thing I love about this film is not only do you have a somewhat compelling performance from Miles Teller, he's really good, maybe I wanted a bit more from his character, but Hemsworth is getting the opportunity to do something we don't often see from him and play someone who is morally questionable, and we sense at the beginning of the film there's some sort of corruption there. How does he play it? I feel he plays it really well because he does come across as somewhat of a likable guy, but you're wondering what the intentions are with this character. Kind of this evil scientist type of sorts, but not that drastic. He played it close to the vest. He played it, I believe, as he should have. And it's just cool to see range from the guy that we know as Thor. I know Hemsworth has it in him. He just really hasn't had the opportunity to kind of flesh that out in his career. So I feel like he gave a great performance. I thought the performances across the board were super solid. We're not asking our actors to do too much here when they're out of the box. What am I referring to as the box? Well, when they're being tested on as these subjects, because they have to display a range of emotions when they're in this contained room, and they do that, and they do a great job of that. And on its surface, it may not seem like this, but this movie is dealing with a lot. What would happen if you chose this result as opposed to jail? It feels like something that's an easy decision, but once we start to realize the repercussions of these decisions is when the movie takes a bit of a turn. And while that turn is interesting, my biggest issue with this film is it felt like every single decision was a decision that was less interesting than what it could have been. It started off really strong when we're exploring the heightened emotions that Hemsworth's character is testing on these subjects, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, this is fascinating. Like, I could sit here and watch things like this happen all throughout the film. But there was a part of my brain that's sitting there thinking, all right, if it goes in this direction where you can see where it's going and almost predict scene for scene what these characters are going to end up doing, I don't know if the film is going to land with me at the end of the day. And unfortunately, once the second half started, as slow as it got towards the middle, it did pick up the pace. But while it was picking up the pace, we're going down that really cliche and predictable route. And I'm going, you had such a cool and interesting concept. And there are decisions made in this third act, one character in particular who takes a piece of technology, puts it on himself, and wonders why what's happening is happening. And I'm like, I mean, you probably could have avoided this. I don't understand some of the decision making. And that entire third act felt so calculated and almost cold. I was distant from the characters at that point, even though there was a romance that was built up. And I thought it was building up well at a point, but then it just takes off in that direction. I'm going, I don't feel as attached as I needed to. And honestly, I thought the movie was a bit too dull at points to get really attached to. Like, I didn't care as much about what was happening. I knew exactly where it was going to go, so it was one of those movies that you just didn't have a huge connection to, even though, again, the performances are really good. What should have been more like an ex machina, this claustrophobic sci-fi feel. I mentioned Black Mirror at the beginning of this review, and that's how it started out, but as we progress, we get this action sequence that feels so out of place. It's kind of all over the place tonally, and that was my biggest issue with the movie. Some moments are really emotional and intense. Other moments, they try to kind of layer that with humor. It's enough to make you feel uncomfortable, which is what a sci-fi movie like this is supposed to do, but it never committed to that. And that was my biggest issue with it. And like I said, the third act was kind of all over the place, even though there is a satisfaction to that ending. Was it built up as well as it could have been? Not necessarily. Was it warranted? I believe it was warranted, and there's a lot here that kept me compelled, right? I was compelled by the performances. Again, Kosinski knows what he's doing behind the camera. I just felt so disappointed at the end of the day because it was on track to becoming something really, really interesting. And it's not often we get a movie like this that's dealing with so many different things. So that's a point I can definitely give in its favor. Before I give you guys my score, let me know what you thought of this film down below. Did you like it, not like it? Was it disappointing for you? And if you like this video, drop that like. It helps the algorithm. Spiderhead has all of the ingredients to make for a compelling and authentic sci-fi film, but it never truly comes together. Hemsworth is great, but the predictable plot and inconsistent tone keep it from hitting that mark, and that is why I'm going a 52% with my score. It's not a bad film necessarily. I just did not think it was able to reach that full potential that it showcased, but I need your thoughts down below. Let me know, what did you think of Spiderhead? Do you like Chris Hemsworth doing something different? All right, guys, I'll see you soon.